Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Book Brood. Today, we're going to be bringing you something a little different. We're going to talk about movies. We've been doing a thing with the family where we watch a series of movies together, and we are going to be talking about all of the X-Men movies.
Yeah, we watched so many X-Men movies in March. It was crazy.
So we are going to talk about them in the order that we watch them, and then we've got a series of prompts that we're just going to talk about each one. And so we will start with X-Men First Class. We're going to watch the trailer, and then we're going to
Answer our questions.
Yeah. Okay. So we just watched the X-Men First Class trailer.
This was such a good movie.
It was the best one of the team-up movies,
absolutely.
I feel like. Yeah, easily. On to the prompts.
Yes.
How does it stand alone?
I think it stands alone really well. I think if you'd never seen any of the older movies, you get introduced to the world, the characters, and you feel comfortable in that world.
Yeah, and it starts from the beginning, which is great. And I feel like just this made a great movie. Just it was well executed. It had a strong story, strong characters. It focused where it needed to.
Yes.
And just was directed very well by Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah, and it ended in a way that's okay. Like, clearly you can keep going, but it wrapped up okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't there to try and just set up future movies.
Yeah,
like it
exactly.
was just it's very self-contained, but still, like you said, they're there to add on.
Yeah.
So how does it stand as part of the collective? I feel like if they had been lucky enough to just start with this one, like the series could have been so much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do think that it helped give important backstory for the relationship between Professor X and Magneto and their friendship before everything happened where they went their separate ways. And I really think that was so well cast and it was so well executed, and I think that really helped bring some continuity through the
absolutely
series.
Could not agree more. All right, how was the plot in this one? It was like I said, very well executed. It stuck to where it needed to, and it didn't waste time anywhere that it didn't.
I mean, it had a cheesy bad guy, which a lot of superhero movies tend to do, but that wasn't the main focus of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was more about just the character
Yeah.
development and the relationships, and of course, every superhero movie needs a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what was the worst thing about this movie?
Lack of racial diversity, maybe?
Yeah. The black guy died first.
Yeah.
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 Some of the final battle scene.
Yeah, the special effects could have been a little more refined, and there was a character, Emma Frost, played by January Jones, that was pretty much just there to show off her boobs.
Yeah.
So.
But.
All right. And the best thing about this movie, I would say Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah. And I think McAvoy as Professor X did an amazing job. Charles did both of the two of them. They just worked so well with each other.
They played off each other so perfectly. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So those are our feelings on X-Men First Class.
Now we're going to watch the trailer for X-Men.
Oh, man, that trailer.
That was old. That was such a bad trailer. It was a worse trailer than it was a movie, I think.
Yeah, right.
So 2000s.
Oh, man. Yeah. So how does this one stand alone? I feel like for the time that it came out, like this was the year 2000.
Yeah.
Like the 90s were just one step behind it, and the 90s produced some pretty shit movies.
Pretty bad.
I feel like, and so it's still kind of stuck to that sort of format. But as just a self-contained movie, I feel like it did the best it could.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
For trying to introduce a superhero movie at a time where they really weren't that really weren't a big deal, and they were risky.
Yeah. And an ensemble.
Exactly.
Superhero movie. Instead of giving time and space for one character, you had to deal with the whole world being introduced for the first time, and like all of these characters who have complex backstories, but you don't have time to like get into that. So yeah, I agree. It did the best it could.
Right. All right. So how does this one stand as part of the collective? I feel like almost the same thing. It did the best it could to start out this series. Yeah. And especially with special effects, the special effects available at the time, you couldn't make Infinity War in the year 2000. No, you couldn't. So, it's toned down, but that was fine. I mean, they did what they could for probably the limited budget that they were allowed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so how was the plot on this one? So this follows Wolverine, pretty much.
And Rogue.
And they're the point of view to be introduced to the wider
Which I think they
X-Men
needed
world.
To do.
Yeah.
I think they needed to start small and then expand, which I think helped the plot.
Yeah. And it was small scale, but I don't feel like it's the same thing. They did the best they could.
Yeah. I don't think they quite knew what they wanted to do with this. All of the original movies.
But the first two were big successes, though. Like it was a new thing.
Yeah.
And Bryan Singer pulled it off. I mean, say what you will about him these days. But yeah, he pulled out at least two good movies out of those. All right, so what was the worst thing about this one? I would say probably that they couldn't get enough development into each of the characters. I think when this came out, a lot of fans were really wanting to see, their favorite character and shine in the spotlight, and some of them, especially Cyclops, just got kind of, just pushed to the side. And it's like, okay, you're there, but you're not really there. I think that, but there's only so much they could have done.
Yeah, they really had to pick a few to highlight, and then everyone else is just there.
Yeah,
I think what they did later in the ones that happened.
The other cast.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what they did there in making all of their superpowers kind of more similar, like you end up with several characters that are all blue, and I think that like visually for me made more sense than this first movie where everyone's got such different powers, and it like was difficult for me to get into and understand. Okay, but yes, there's mutations, but like, why is everyone so different in their superpowers, right?
Right. Yeah, it's one gene, but
exactly,
it's the mutant gene.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
All right, and the best thing about this one for me, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. That was just a spot-on casting.
The first one, yes, absolutely. I would say that they definitely run too hard with the Hugh Jackman Wolverine situation later in the series. But yeah, he was really well cast here.
All right. So the next one we watched was X2. So X2, X-Men United.
What to say about this wonderful movie?
Well, let's just go right to the questions then, I guess. So how does it stand alone?
I don't think it stands well alone.
No, it definitely needed the first X-Men movie as a jumping off point to be able to get to the story that it is.
And it was also alluding to the Wolverine storyline.
Absolutely.
That comes after.
Yeah. Yeah, and it a little bit at the end hints at the Phoenix story too. So how does this stand as part of the collective?
I mean, it's a link in the chain, I guess.
Yeah. At the time that it came out, which, to go down memory lane, this movie was in the theater at the same time as Matrix Reloaded.
Oh my gosh.
Which was the second Matrix movie. So
that was so long ago.
So long ago. So I think at the time it was a good it was a great follow-up to what was the first X-Men. Special effects got a little better.
Yeah.
They took the characters and put them in a completely different situation. Instead of fighting bad mutants, they were fighting humans.
Yeah.
And
it was a better movie than the first one, I think.
Yeah. So how was the plot of this one? So the plot of this one consisted of bad humans wanting to round up and collect all of the mutants. And
so you've got the school getting invaded.
Right. And so the X-Men are
the assassination
for a bit.
Plot.
Right, yeah. So it starts off with an assassination attempt on the president by a mutant. And this causes the inaction of the Mutant Registration Act, I believe.
Yeah.
So overall, I think it was fine. The structure of the movie itself.
Yeah, it made sense. It worked. It put our characters in the right situations to show off on screen the best, I think.
Yeah.
I really liked the school getting invaded. I think that was a question that naturally arises with this storyline of everyone knows there's a school for mutants, so like what happens if the government tries to invade? And it got to show off, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, definitely. So what was the worst thing about this movie here?
Storm getting told to smile.
That was pretty bad. Some pretty cringy.
She had to,
She's too pretty to be angry.
So yeah, she had to emotionally be available to a male character who does not appreciate that she's her own person and just tells her that she's too pretty to be upset.
Yeah.
That's terrible. So that's, in my personal opinion, the worst.
The trying to make a love triangle with Wolverine, Jean, and Cyclops. Wolverine just, decides, no, Jean, that's going to be my girl, and I don't care if she's got a longtime partner.
Yeah.
I'm just going to
be extra creepy and shove my way into this relationship.
Yeah. And at the end, so when Jean is about to be gone or whatever, and Cyclops is like struggling with that, and Wolverine tells him, oh, she made a choice, man. She chose you. And it's like, because you were in the running, were you ever?
Right.
Like, just being this creeper.
Oh my God. Yeah. That was awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely some questionable subplots in there. What was the best thing about this movie?
I liked the school getting invaded. I really enjoyed that you got to see all the kids randomly running around and using their powers. And Wolverine was there being awesome.
Yeah. I enjoyed Brian Cox as William Stryker. I thought he played him very well. And I also think Rebecca Romijn definitely really took ownership of the Mystique character in this one. She had some really good moments in there with being action and also just being a schemer and a plotter herself.
Yeah. The scene at the beginning with the Nightcrawler.
Yes.
The fight scene.
The White House, the teleporter and all the acrobatics and everything. Yeah,
that was a really good scene.
That was an amazing way to start out this film. Yeah. All right, so that was X2, X-Men United. We're now going to move on to the one that everyone wants to forget about, and that is X-Men 3, The Last Stand.
Whew. This movie was terrible.
It was so bad.
This was so bad. Oh my gosh, where to even start with this?
Yeah, so in release order, this was the first X-Men movie that was not directed by Bryan Singer.
That's a good place to start.
They switched to Brett Ratner, who not only is also a sexual predator as well, but he is just pretty much a Hollywood yes man that just does whatever the studio wants and really has no artistic vision of his own. So this had no chance from the get-go, I feel like.
Yeah, I think you could definitely tell in some of the scenes, especially in the final act, the like, there were some scenes where you were just looking down at the actors from straight above, and it was just such a weird choice, especially in this, like, final battle, and, like, it was supposed to be a really tense moment, and it fell apart.
Yeah, the cinematography was horrid.
Yeah.
Stationary cameras trying to capture, a big battle scene or whatever, and just, yeah. So how does this one stand alone?
It doesn't.
It wouldn't make any sense watching it on its own. And it's just a mess, like, as far as structure goes. It's just like, okay, this has to happen, this has to happen. It's like we're
even the series itself replaced this one because it was just so bad.
Yeah.
Like, nobody likes this one, I think. Well, that's not... I'm sure someone out there likes this one.
Yeah. How does it stand as part of the collective? I think it speaks for itself that the collective of movies tried to just write this one off and pretend it didn't happen. It was just no good.
Yeah.
The plot of this one, like I said, is clunky. It just moved from scene to scene with no real...
I liked a couple of the elements in there. So the idea of developing a cure for the mutants, they bring that idea back, but for the most part, this plot was just a mess. Yeah.
It seemed like there was, so the fan base had built up for these movies with the success of the first two ones, and you had an outcry from the comic community, I think, of like, well, we want to see Angel. We want to see
right.
Juggernaut. We want to see these characters. We want to see Beast. And so the studio's like, okay, let's stuff them all in there, and let's not care if it makes sense or anything. Yeah. They'll just be there.
Because we are introduced to so many new mutants, and they get, 30 seconds of screen time, and then you never see them again.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the worst thing about this movie? So many things.
Cheesy one-liners. They're so bad.
Yeah.
The actors are trying their best, but when you have a terrible script and a terrible plot, and you don't feel the tension in the movie, so then you've got the actors trying to, like, convey how serious this is with their acting, it just comes off even more cheesy.
Yeah, when you have actors of the caliber of Ian McKellen and they're delivering these kind of lines, it's just painful.
Yeah, it must have been painful to act it too, I'm sure.
The best thing about this movie, I don't know, it ended eventually.
I really liked one of the last scenes where you've got I know you don't like the Juggernaut scene. I liked the Juggernaut scene where it's the Juggernaut and Kitty, I can never remember her last name, Kitty Pryde, and they're running through the walls, and she's, like, teleporting or, like, pushing through them, and he's just smashing through them. I thought that scene of just, like, running was really good, and I think that it showed that character who's been kind of, like, a little bit in these movies, but it actually showed her using her power.
Yeah, and that was the first time that Elliot Page played Kitty.
Was it?
I know that. Yeah. So in X2, the character was in it, but it wasn't Elliot Page.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that is X3. The next
Wolverine?
one we watched was, X-Men Origins Wolverine.
All right,
okay, Wolverine, the first in the first installment of the Wolverine trilogy.
Yeah, that was... I liked the just focusing on one character's backstory.
Yeah, I appreciated the ambition that this film had, though the execution is, mediocre.
Yeah.
So how does this one stand on its own? I feel like it stands pretty well on its own. Like, you could just watch this movie without seeing any of the other X-Men movies.
Yeah, absolutely, because it is an origin story.
How does this stand as part of the collective of X-Men movies? I'd say it's fine.
It adds some depth to the Wolverine character.
Although it wasn't necessary. I'd say too.
No.
So,
but it had been hinted at.
Yes.
Through the X-Men movies.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Which I think they did a good job of in those flashbacks, those first few flashbacks. They matched them up very well.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so how was the plot of this movie? It was a little clunky.
Yeah. Especially the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they knew they had to erase his memory at some point.
Yeah.
So that was like the obvious conclusion. So it's kind of like the same thing that Revenge of the Sith suffered from, is you knew Anakin had to become Darth Vader. So you kind of knew where it was going the whole time.
How do you surprise an audience with that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, but this mostly starts from children, from him being a child, him and Sabretooth, that they made brothers in this one, which I thought was a strange.
But I liked the dynamic.
The dynamic was good. Mm-hmm.
I really liked that opening scene during the credits where you see them running through the battlefields together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. And them becoming soldiers of fortune, Wolverine going his own way, Sabretooth then becoming crazy and killing their ex-teammates, which then brings Wolverine back into the fold. He gets the adamantium.
See, this feels like 2 or 3 movies mushed into one. It really has different tones throughout.
Mm-hmm. The worst thing about this movie...
Shitty Deadpool.
Shitty Deadpool. Definitely. Yes, this movie introduces Deadpool for the first time. And... so when we first get introduced, which is Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson, the mercenary, that's fine. That's just fine. But then when they
turn him into some weird science experiment, that was like bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although it was a decent scene when they've got Wolverine and Sabretooth or whatever, and Deadpool up there on the rim of the whatever reactor that was. Yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah, that was interesting. Even though the claws blocking lasers was...
yeah, that was weird. Yeah, that was weird.
Let's see, the worst thing about this, Taylor Kitsch as Gambit.
What was that? That was weird.
That was really weird.
And random.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad the character was in there, but they got this TV actor to come, probably because he was cheap.
Yeah, that was a weird thing. You know, I actually, watching the preview, I had forgotten about the guy who works for Stryker, who's like hunting down Wolverine.
Oh, Agent Zero.
Yeah, and I liked him in...
yeah.
He doesn't have a big part, but I liked his character more than Gambit.
Yes, yeah, definitely. What was the best thing about this? I'd say you already mentioned this, but the opening scene of them...
that was just so
running
good.
Through the different wars, showing how old they are and the times that they've lived through. Everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really liked their brotherly dynamic in the, very beginning. Yeah.
All right, so that was X-Men Origins Wolverine. Yep. The next one we watched... I'm a little fuzzy on the order. Okay, so next we did The Wolverine, directed by James Mangold. So it's movie number 2 in the Wolverine solo series.
All right, so The Wolverine.
This one takes place mostly in Japan. This tried to recapture a moment in the comics where Wolverine spent a significant amount of time in Japan, and it was very much liked by the comic readers, so they tried to recapture that in this movie.
Is that what this was?
Mm-hmm.
Since I did not have that background context, I did not understand why we suddenly get this whole huge adventure that feels so out of place.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how does this one stand alone?
It stands completely alone.
It does, yeah. You could just watch this one and be like, oh, okay, that's a Wolverine movie.
Yeah. I mean, you would need to know who Logan is.
Right, and the dream sequences of Jean Grey would be a little confusing to you, I suppose, but they're not that huge part of the film.
That
pretty
was
much
a weird
there.
choice to put them in, honestly.
I mean, it was pretty much there to show off Femke Jensen's cleavage.
Yeah, I think it was only added for continuity to like tie it to the rest of the series, because otherwise it feels like a standalone.
It does, absolutely. Yeah. How does it stand as part of the collective? You could leave this out.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't add anything to any of the other movies, really. So the plot of this one, Logan had rescued a Japanese guard at the POW camp he was in World War II in Nagasaki.
Yeah.
So he saved him from the atomic bomb explosion. And so then bring back to the modern time, this guard is dying and wants to say goodbye to the man who saved him, but really wants to take his powers of near immortality. Yeah. And that all gets unraveled in between samurai and ninja fights. And
nightmare dream sequences and Hugh Jackman seducing everyone. Oh. Everyone.
Yeah, that's just so weird. It's like
he has a new love interest in every single movie, and they all die. Mm-hmm. Wait, she didn't die in this one.
She didn't die in this one, no.
She almost died.
Yeah, almost.
He had a dream about her dying.
Very few mutants in this one. So you had Wolverine, you had the evil doctor, you had the samurai girl.
The samurai girl, yeah. So just the three of them?
That was about it, yeah.
Yeah.
No. So what was the worst thing about this movie for you?
I don't like this movie. I think the whole thing is the worst. I don't see the point of it. It does not appeal to me. Nothing about this appeals to me. It's a incredibly visual movie that, to me personally, lacks depth. It doesn't. There's no characters to empathize with in this. Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of care about Logan a little bit, but he acts so terrible in this. I don't want to care about him. I like the samurai girl, but like she doesn't have enough of a backstory and a personality on her own.
Right, and they didn't give her much time. Like, so they bring her in and then like take her out to like shoehorn the love interest in there, and
Yeah, so for me, this is just a long action sequence with nothing to entertain me. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. It's like the Avengers movies where it's like, bow, 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 bow. There's your movie. It's like, what?
Hooray.
No. No.
Worst thing for me in this one was making Silver Samurai essentially Iron Man. Like, that was... Oh, yeah. That was weird. They went that route with it.
That was weird. And they didn't even give it enough time to explain anything.
Yeah, so an iconic character that just, like, is kind of just thrown in there at the end in this weird way. Best thing about this movie?
Best thing about this movie was, I mean, the special effects are there. Like, the technology is there to show some beautiful scenes. There's one scene where Logan is trying to get through this abandoned town full of people who are shooting like arrows at him or whatever, and he's like trying to fight his way through, and he's speared through like a dozen or so times, and they're like trying to hold him back. And I mean, visually it looks good.
Yeah. I think the bullet train sequence was probably the most enjoyable part. All right, so that was The Wolverine. Next, we watched X-Men Days of Future Past. This was the return of Bryan Singer to the director's chair for the X-Men movies.
All right, Days of Future Past.
So this one was released after X-Men First Class. So
we didn't I didn't see this one until we did this huge marathon.
And I only saw it once before. All right, so this one tried to build off of the success of X-Men First Class, but somehow tie it to the older movies as well.
This was a weird choice because they have both casts kind of come together, but like only tied together by Wolverine, Logan, who just had his own series, which is, it's interesting. So it kind of gives a nod to the old cast and the new cast, but like holds it together with Logan, who is the main character of this series.
Yeah.
Like Hugh Jackman is apparently what everyone wants to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a weird choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this movie was a big production for not much payoff, I'd say.
I thought it was odd, the characters from the past that they decided to... Maybe it came down to who was available actor-wise. Because they've got Iceman, they've got Kitty Pryde.
Oh, from the older movies? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It probably was just who was available, because this had to have been a logistics mess.
Oh, yeah,
to
absolutely.
try and film with the amount of star power that was in this.
Yeah.
So how does this stand alone? So technically, in chronological order, this is the second movie. If you went First Class, you would go to this one next.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, you would have no idea what was going on with the future world in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does it stand as part of the collective? It's
the reset button.
Yeah, and I feel like they shouldn't have even bothered, honestly. I feel like they should have just made First Class 2 or whatever.
I think so too. I think if they would have had this big of a budget and this much star power put into just a sequel instead of a reset button, I think they could have done amazing things.
Yeah, absolutely. How was the plot? It was a bit of a continuity mess. Well, it was just a difficult.
Well, it was weird because the tone of like so you've got like this post-apocalyptic Terminator world where there are like the stakes are high, everyone's about to die unless something happens, and then you've got the past, which is very, what is it, like 70s, 80s?
It's the 70s,
70s, and everything's just kind of light and bright, and everyone's just drugged up and drunk and like has, emotional issues.
Yeah.
And like it's just such a different tone, and you're trying to balance both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess that's to show the struggle that Wolverine has to deal with of convincing this past world that things are serious and they need to change.
I guess.
Yeah, so Wolverine has to bring the X-Men together in the past to prevent the bad future from happening. What was the worst part of this movie?
So many. I have so many. But you know what? This was not my least favorite movie.
No.
I thought it was a good movie. It's not perfect by any chance.
Mm-hmm. Not the best of them, but definitely not the worst. Yeah. Blue vagina shots.
So many blue vagina shots. Like that's a big problem with that I have with the Mystique character anyways. All of the high kicks that she does, she pins people up against the wall with her foot. Like, how are you not, like, you're naked.
Uh-huh.
Like, but yeah, I didn't like that. Also, we've got Xavier walking for no reason. Like, they explain it away, but why?
Yeah, why even?
To give him a drug problem?
Uh-huh.
To
right.
justify
essentially make him a junkie.
Yeah, to justify him being addicted. I thought some of the... Okay, so they introduce a new mutant in this one. The really fast guy.
Oh, yeah, Quicksilver. Mm-hmm.
Which he's not a bad character, but he has so much time in this movie. But this movie's already so busy. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a weird choice. And then to just... at the last minute be like, oh yeah, so-and-so's my father. Like, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but like,
yeah.
Like nothing comes of it. It's just a throwaway line.
Uh-huh.
That was weird.
Yeah. Well, it was weird that they bring him in for, to rescue, to get Magneto out of prison.
Yeah.
And then like, they're just like, all right, see you later. We're going to go have this other big showdown, but you're a kid, I guess. So go back to your mom, which she can't even keep track of you anyway.
Yeah, that was weird.
So best thing about this movie, honestly, it might be Quicksilver.
He was really good. Yeah. I thought because it's so convoluted, there's not like a bad guy, but the bad guy that we do have is Peter Dinklage, who's great. They didn't use him very much in the movie.
They did not make enough use of his talent to make his role stand out in any significant way. All right, anything more to say on...
I mean, this was such a weird movie. Okay, so like I thought it was odd that it's a bring the team back together moment, and then they split the team up again at the end, but like somehow like the future is saved, but like Charles and Eric are still on opposite sides. Like they have to come together to fix this one thing, but then like they're pitted against each other again.
So Eric Magneto had a whole thing of like, oh, okay, I'll help you out, but oh no, I'm actually a bad guy. You know?
Why? Why did that need to be there?
And then this was also Let's Undo X-Men 3 Last Stand, too.
Oh, yeah,
because there was that scene at the end where Wolverine makes it back to the future and...
Jean's alive,
Cyclops is alive, and everything's better.
Everything's great
now.
Yeah. Like, it was just a giant reset.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that was X-Men Days of Future Past. Mm-hmm. The next movie we watched was X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah.
All right, X-Men Apocalypse. This is probably the sequel, more of a direct sequel to X-Men First Class than Days of Future Past was. But this one brings in the character of Apocalypse, which is sort of the biggest antagonist of the X-Men world. He's the Thanos of the X-Men.
That was a weird play. Yeah. So this is what we get Storm's origin story here.
Bit of Storm's origin. We get Cyclops back again as a kid. We get a new Jean Grey.
We constantly have a new Cyclops in school scene.
Because
that's like almost every movie.
Yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine. We had a young Cyclops in that as well. This one was...
For being such a big production, this one's so weirdly forgettable to me.
Yeah, and just anticlimactic too.
Yeah.
So, how does this one stand alone? It's supposed to be a bang, but it's more of a whimper.
Yeah. It's hard because it's the apocalypse. It's like the big bad, but like it doesn't matter. And I think that's the problem with taking comic books to film, unless you're going to constantly restart the story. Which comics do often, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. How does this one stand as part of the collective? I feel like this is really where... So, Days of Future Past, the whole reset, undo one... People liked it enough, I guess. I didn't really care for it at the time. It was a little easier on the rewatch, but this one I feel like is really just where franchise fatigue began to set in.
Yeah.
And it just didn't, the magic wasn't there.
I think they went the wrong way with it. I think instead of making the big movie, they should have had another character-driven, like, ensemble movie. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. Like, something closer to Wolverine, where we like care about this character instead of having this, the world is ending again.
But that was a lot of fan disappointment, though, with the original trilogy, was that it was so Wolverine focused.
Oh, really?
They wanted it to be more team ensemble thing, so they were trying to course correct there, I guess.
I guess so. And I think, if you wanted to see backstory for some of these characters, I didn't particularly care for their backstory. I think they kind of just got shoved in there. Like, I thought Storm's character backstory was kind of like, I don't know if that's supposed to be how it was in the comics, but I thought that was kind of a terrible backstory.
Yeah, and more of an afterthought to just to just be plugged in there.
Yeah.
Like, they spent more time focusing on Cyclops and Jean, which I don't think anyone really cares about. So the plot of this one, Apocalypse was the world's first mutant, and he could somehow
share power,
transfer his body to a new body, and he'd still have his power from the last body, but the power of the new body as well. And he has his 4 horsemen, that mutants that he makes extra special. Mm-hmm. And so he wakes up in the modern time and starts collecting his horsemen, and he's going to destroy the world.
Yep.
And so the X-Men have to stop them. Charles Xavier is taken by him, so we have to have Mystique, Jennifer Lawrence Mystique, lead the X-Men. Is put into a leader role here.
Why? Why would she be there?
And she was done. I feel like she phoned this one in so hard. Like
I don't think she wanted to be there.
She was on top of the world with the Hunger Games and everything, at this time, and it was she did not want to be there.
I don't think so.
What was the worst thing about this movie?
It's forgettability. For me, personally, I don't, even watching the trailer, I'm like, okay, I kind of remember that happening, but I don't remember anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very forgettable, and just for as grand as it's supposed to be, it doesn't feel that way. No. It just...
at one point, the entire school explodes, but, okay, what did that bring to the story?
It was just an excuse to do another extra long Quicksilver saves everyone scene. What was the best thing about this movie?
You finally get Charles to go bald. I don't know.
I guess.
Is that a good thing?
I don't know.
Continuity-wise, it looks better to have a bald Xavier.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't like this one.
I guess bringing back Rose Byrne, Maria McTaggart. I liked her character from X-Men First Class, and they brought her back. So
I thought it was weird to have her back. I don't know. Okay, she seemed very Lois Lane to me. There's this human running off to go investigate supernatural things, or
you're very spot on there.
Superhero things. And why are you there? You're just gonna get in a position where you might die,
fall off a building,
exactly, and have to be rescued. It was a very, I don't know. That's what I thought.
All right, so that is X-Men Apocalypse, and the next movie we did was Logan.
Yeah, I think we skipped around chronologically because I really wanted to watch Logan again.
Okay, Logan, the third and final solo Wolverine movie.
Wow, this one has such a different tone.
Much different tone.
Yeah.
That was a great preview too.
That was, I really liked the music, and it really set the tone. Yeah, that was a good preview.
Yeah. So this one is definitely probably one of the lowest scale.
Yeah.
Mutant movies, definitely.
Yeah, this is a end of life, gritty, rough movie, emotionally, heart-wrenching. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got characters who are slowly decaying and dying, and just the whole movie feels you can really feel the whole world is decaying and just dark,
right? And
hopeless.
Even the young characters in this really don't have much to live for.
No,
because the world just has nothing left to offer.
Yeah.
So how does this movie stand alone? This is an incredible movie.
This is an amazing movie. You can't watch it alone because otherwise you don't know who these characters are. But that being said, if you just watched just one movie and so you knew who these characters were, this would stand really well on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. How does it stand as part of the collective? I don't know if the collective X-Men needed this movie, but
I needed this movie. I needed this movie. Yeah. This was such a good movie. It's not my favorite, but I think it's my second favorite out of the series.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really great to watch. It's such a human story.
Yes.
Yeah, about just life and death and
Definitely.
existing and
outliving. So what's that expression? If you live long enough, what is that expression?
Is it
become the monster? The hero becomes the monster.
Oh, you either die the hero or live long enough to become the bad guy, or the villain. Yeah,
that is how this feels to me.
Let's see. So how was the plot? So this one focuses on a old and sick Wolverine taking care of a dying Charles Xavier.
Senile, Alzheimer's, riddled Xavier, yes.
And Wolverine's just trying to get a boat to go off somewhere and just live out the rest of their lives. Yeah.
It felt very much like he was about to murder suicide himself and Charles. Absolutely. You can tell he is done. He is just done with everything.
Yeah. But a wrench is thrown into this in the form of Laura, who is a young mutant who is the genetic child of Wolverine that a lab created from his DNA. Yeah. And something that they only briefly touched on, but they gave her the animanium treatment as a child,
Yeah.
That when he was looking through the files and stuff.
This is interesting because it's set up how it could be a passing of the torch, but you have the older generation and they don't want to pass the torch. Like, Logan does not want to. He doesn't want to interact. He doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't want anything to do with that. Even though biologically, and like they have so much in common, not just biologically, but their tragic past.
Yeah. And both incredibly headstrong.
Sorry, I interrupted your plot.
No, it's all right.
So Laura is on her own kind of journey trying to get back to her basically brothers and sisters that were all raised in the lab together.
Yes, and then trying to get away from the bad guys by escaping to Canada. So what was the worst thing about this movie?
The worst thing was Laura calls him daddy.
Yeah,
that was unnecessary.
That wasn't necessary at all. Yeah. And it was out of nowhere, it felt like. Just like all of a sudden she has this emotion for him. Yeah.
I mean, it didn't bother me as much watching it the second time. Because I did pick up on the little clues of how much she hero worshipped him even before she met him.
Okay.
And like she had grown up with the comics and she knew that he was her father biologically, and then meeting your hero in real life and realizing what an asshole he is. And then they have like a bonding moment, and then she's like, daddy. Like it's more of like your last childish moment of like there goes my last hope for, like, I don't know, what am I trying to say?
Family
like, or... Yeah, and it was like the final straw in her childhood was, dead, done. That wasn't English, but you know what I
mean. What was the best thing about this movie?
I really enjoyed... It didn't need to be there plot-wise, but I really enjoyed the scene in the middle of the movie where Wolverine, Charles, and Laura stop in this little tiny cornfield and stay the night with this family and kind of get drawn into a little local dispute. But like they have a quiet moment of just happiness in the middle of their terrible life.
Yeah.
They had this brief moment of happiness.
Yeah, definitely. That was very good. I enjoyed how well they were able to do action with such a young actor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure the actual mechanics of it, if they did stunt doubles and, shrunk the stunt double down or something like that so that they could do
good.
All these acrobatics and things like that. Yeah. But yeah, it looked very, very good. And just the performance of that actress
really well.
For having so few speaking lines too.
Yeah.
Just her presence was so strong. Yeah.
Absolutely. So primal and like rageful, which worked so well as Logan's daughter. I mean, it was perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
All right, so that was a Logan. The next movie we watched was Deadpool.
Oh yeah. Totally different feel.
Okay, so Deadpool.
Yes.
So the reprisal of Ryan Reynolds as the titular character, titular? How do you pronounce it? I don't know.
Titular? I think it's titular. The merc with the mouth.
And done properly. The studio gave them a very cheap budget, but gave them pretty much freedom to make the character and movie how they wanted to.
So happy that this is a thing.
Yeah.
We went to see this in theaters for Valentine's Day.
Yes, we did, and this was even billed as a love story.
Yeah, yeah. This, you know what? This is exactly what this character needed, and I do think this is what the franchise needed. They needed a silly, just what do I want to say? Like just crude, ridiculous, funny story thrown in, especially after like I don't know chronologically, but like we watched them back to back. Logan was so dark, and then Deadpool is just so nice.
Yeah, it definitely was something. It breathed new life into the franchise that I think it's the only thing alive in the franchise now at this point.
And unfortunately, they don't like if you think Deadpool, you think its own thing. Like you don't really consider it as part of the X-Men universe.
Yeah. But they tied it in a little bit with Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead in the first one. Yeah. So how does this one stand alone?
Completely.
Yeah, completely stands alone and is great, and it's good that it really didn't tie too much into the overall universe.
Absolutely.
How does it stand as part of the collective? Like I said, it was a breath of fresh air. Yeah,
it doesn't really... I mean, besides the fact that it has Colossus and Negasonic whatever, it feels like its own thing, so it doesn't even feel like the same series.
So the plot of this one is Wade Wilson, the mercenary, is doing his thing, falls in love with a lady, but then finds out he has terminal cancer. He goes to have an experimental treatment,
which desperate.
Gives him healing powers similar to Wolverine, but leaves him physically deformed. And he does not know how to go back and approach his love anymore.
Exactly.
And so he's chasing down the scientist that did this to him, hoping that he can get his appearance fixed.
Okay, but like if you went from looking like Ryan Reynolds to looking like an old avocado, you'd probably be pissed.
Yes, yeah. So it's understandable there. And then just hijinks and crude jokes,
so many
all along the way. And
I love how you can tell certain scenes must have been improv. Just the actors throwing out like trying to one up each other and just their ridiculous.
Yeah. T.J. Miller before his fall from grace thing. Yeah, it was so good. Just so much charm that this movie had, and
even in the little details, like in the opening credits, just they're being cheeky with like just the the words and the little like the bar is called like Miss Someone's School for Wayward Girls or whatever. It's just like, and it's full of just these mercenaries trying to kill each other. It's just it's so charming. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Worst thing about this movie, I suppose, a forgettable bad guy.
Yeah.
But it's not horrible.
It is not a linear story.
Yes.
So it has all of these flashbacks to these montages or these small sequences. And so that feels slightly jarring.
Yeah, I remembered rewatching this that, when they get to the point where Deadpool actually just says, "Okay, all caught up now." That like I'm always very relieved at that point in the first film, just like, okay, let's go. Let's let's just.
I think that would be the worst for me.
What is the best thing about this movie? So many things are great about this movie. The humor. Yeah, just you could just overall say the humor.
That was so lacking in the rest of the series, the rest of the franchise.
Or quality humor, at least, instead of just like cheesy one-liners that are supposed to give you a chuckle here and there. Like these are legitimately laugh out loud jokes and moments. Negasonic was great. I like that character.
I think the last scene of like the ship kind of exploding and tilting and them like doing all that, I think that was a little overdone. I mean, I think that was the biggest action scene, so they needed something big. Yeah, but I didn't love it. I preferred the scene on the highway.
Yes, that was much better, much more enjoyable. Yeah. All right, so just go right into it. The next thing we watched was Deadpool 2. So this one is follow-up, obviously, to the success of the first one, and this one's a family movie is how it's built.
It is a family movie, absolutely. I loved in the very beginning the reference to Logan. That was funny.
It's like, well, Hugh Jackman's gonna die, I'm gonna do it too.
That was good, yeah.
How does this one stand alone?
It does not.
It doesn't. Yeah, you would need to watch the first one.
Yeah.
The tragedy of the beginning, that
absolutely
need to understand how much he loves Vanessa and everything.
But you could probably just watch the Deadpools.
Yes, absolutely. How does it stand as part of the collective?
I think it stands very well with the other Deadpool.
Yes.
I think they play off each other pretty well.
I like the first one better.
I think so too.
The second one.
Well, I mean, we'll get there. I think the bad guy is better in the second one, and I think a few of the fight scenes are better in the second one. But how much of that is budget?
Right. They did get more of a budget. The nonlinear timeline was not as bad, as jarring in the second one.
It was just weirder because it was this weird afterlife. I mean, we can go into the plot if we want to.
Okay, so how was the plot? The plot of this one consists of Vanessa being killed in a tragic home invasion that Wade just was not able to be quick enough to save her. Yeah. So he is depressed, he tries to kill himself, and Colossus takes it upon himself to rehabilitate Wade into a proper X-Men. And obviously that does not work. It works for like 5 minutes. And then Wade gets himself arrested. Yes, along with our sort of antagonist of the film, Russell. Or Fire Fist.
I love that they have this tiny teenage boy, or I shouldn't say tiny, but like a 12-year-old boy is the antagonist. Like, but he's not the bad guy. He's just a constant source of frustration and problems for Wade.
A man from the future, Cable, comes back to kill Russell because Russell becomes a very, very bad guy in the future once he starts killing people.
Right. So Wade and Russell kind of team up. I think just Wade tries to take over the story of trying to save Russell.
Right, trying to save Russell after he's essentially told him to go stuff it, while they're in the icebox or prison, mutant prison. What was the worst thing about this movie? I would say the afterlife flashbacks seemed a little cheesy and out of place in this, where he sees Vanessa on the other side of this invisible barrier.
But only when he is as close to death as he possibly can get, since he's immortal, basically. Yeah. That was a little weird. I mean, I liked that they were able to keep that character, Vanessa, in the movie, even though she's dead. Like, she's still kind of there. Because I think it humanizes Wade Wilson. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a little weird. And spending so much time in the icebox surrounded by the worst mutants ever, but everyone's got their collars on to prevent their mutant powers. I thought that was a little convenient there were too many conveniences there with the collars, right?
Yeah.
It I don't want to do any spoilers or whatever, but like, yeah. It was an interesting plot device that I'm not sure I loved. It worked in the movie.
It was canon to the comics, but,
Yeah. And they even had Deadpool point out, oh, this would have been convenient in the earlier part of the movie,
right.
And stuff like that. So, yeah.
All right. So what was the best thing about this movie? Domino was amazing. I loved Domino, and I got so sad when I went to the comic book store and looked at the Domino comics, and she's not like the Deadpool movie. She's not black, and she's just this tiny little white girl. And I'm just like, what? No. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the casting of her was spot on.
Yeah, that was great.
It was great. Even if they had to rework the character in a bit, it was perfect.
Another best thing, I think, is it did not take itself seriously that it made fun of itself constantly in this ensemble adventure. They kill everyone right away, and that was just so well done. I loved, and what they did with Brad Pitt.
Yes, yeah, Brad Pitt in for less than a second.
Less than a second.
Got a bit cheesy at the end, but this one was still very enjoyable and lots of fun, definitely.
It was fun how they used that weird time travel plot device in the post credits. That was fun.
Just go back and fix everything.
Yeah.
All right. So the next is the last movie in the X-Men verse so far, and the last one on this video, and that is Dark Phoenix.
Ooh, get excited. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Dark Phoenix.
This one is
the worst?
Close to it. Yeah.
This is so bad.
And this is supposed to be an end cap to the X-Men movies, I guess.
It feels like the end of the series. It definitely does.
But definitely doesn't feel like the right kind. Like it just doesn't end well. It doesn't end in a proper manner, I feel like.
I want to get to the plot because that is a mess.
Okay. So
how does it stand alone?
It really wouldn't. You'd have to watch.
Unless you just want a Jean Grey story.
Mm-hmm. You could watch, Apocalypse and then this one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you wanted to.
How does it stand as part of the collective? It's the end, but it's not the end you wanted. Not a movie anyone wanted, I don't think.
Oh my gosh, no, not at all. I feel like nothing had lasting consequences. Mm-hmm. So it feels like unnecessary.
Yeah. All right, so the plot on this one.
The plot on this one is so bad. So bad. Okay, so it starts off promising, I will say that, where the X-Men have to go save some astronauts that ran into some technical issue in space. And I kind of liked that setup, that beginning to the story.
Yeah.
It's something we haven't seen yet, but in the comics happens, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But then there is some sort of phenomenon in space. Jean Grey takes in all the space radiation or whatever and somehow doesn't die. And then she slowly starts going crazy and having all of these power surges. And then there's aliens involved, and then they try and use Jean against the X-Men. And you've got Eric gets pulled back into the story for no reason.
Yeah, just Magneto. Out of nowhere.
Yeah, just to be there, I guess. Just to have a third pull to a a fight scene, right? Because you've got the good guys, the bad guys. You always have to have Magneto in there as a, ooh, which side am I on? I'm on my own side. Here we go.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Uh-huh.
Why? You think everyone's going to die, and then nobody dies. Right? Basically?
Well, Jean sort of disappears at the end, but they have that little, you see the phoenix in the sky.
They intentionally tell you she's not dead.
There. Yeah. I don't know what the writers were thinking on this.
It felt clunky. It felt like we were doing a little bit of a tour to several different, like looping back to, so we get some Jean Grey backstory, her family. We loop back to her family. We have Jean go and visit Magneto, where he's living his best life, literally his best life.
Yeah, he's doing fine.
Interrupts that, brings chaos there, and pulls him back into the world.
All right, the worst thing about this movie, I'm going to say character motivations across the board.
Yeah.
I feel like...
I understand why Eric was mad.
Yeah, that's probably the most concise character motivation. Mystique was doing her whole thing of like, oh, I pretend to be human because I don't like my blue form, but I've already learned this lesson 4 times before already.
And I'm not sure how much is the character and how much is the actress.
Right.
She did not want to be there.
Yeah. I think she
God.
signed on additionally. Like, I think her contract was up after Apocalypse. And I don't know why she came.
Like,
and the costume looked second rate. Like, the wig was like, it looked like they compromised to make the costume go on faster because she was very vocal about how she hated spending so much time in the makeup chair for that costume. Yeah. Jean's motivations are, so the aliens' motivations is their home planet was destroyed by the magic space dust that Jean absorbed. And so they're following it because they think they can use it to make a new home, even though it's done nothing but destroy at this point.
Yeah, so they want to release it onto Earth to, destroy Earth?
But then they said they're going to make a new home after it's destroyed?
It makes no sense. None.
Charles is dealing with the fact that he messed with Jean's mind to try and protect her. Cyclops just wants his girlfriend back.
Beast, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that Beast and Magneto have decent motivation because they're united in, grieving for Mystique.
Right. But horrible writing to try and convey these motivations. Yeah. The dialogue is just awful when they're trying to let their feelings be seen and heard on screen here. But then Jean's are the worst. Her character motivation is awful in this because she is mad at Professor Xavier because he tried to control her. She's mad at essentially everyone for trying to control her. So what does she do? She starts following this alien around who's obviously just trying to control her.
She's doing the teenage girl thing where she just finds a older, prettier teenage girl to, I didn't hate the bad guy alien.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jessica Chastain.
Yeah. I think she did fine.
Right. For what?
The character.
The character that was in it. Yeah. Or the character that she was written for, or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
What was the worst for you?
So many things. One, why is everyone's shirt 3 times too small? What is up with that? Did you notice that?
You gotta show off those muscles.
Oh my God.
Or the chesticles.
So everyone's shirt was way too small. The actor who plays Cyclops was playing some kind of daytime drama, and he was the only one in it because the acting was so weird. Yeah. He's like, oh, my girlfriend, I need to save you, my love. It was just on a totally different level. I think that maybe even the second half of the movie kept constantly teasing you with, we're gonna kill everyone, and then having constantly thinking that these characters were dead, only to have none of it mean anything. Like it was only Mystique that died in real life.
Yeah.
Or
Mystique died. Yeah.
That's it?
Because the character was done. Like, I'm gonna make sure you never bring me back.
Right.
What was the best thing about this movie?
The very, very end with Charles and Eric sitting down together to play chess.
Right, yeah.
I mean,
that
okay,
was
fine. Bringing it back to the very beginning where they were playing chess as old men in the park, right?
Yeah.
Full circle.
I'd say that even for not as like large scale of a climax that they were going for, I enjoyed enough that action scene on the train at the end. That was fun enough.
It went on and on and on. Ugh. Yeah. I'm gonna have to say the beginning, the X-Men and NASA teaming up to do a mission.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is where it peaked, and that was in the first 10 minutes. So.
All right, so that is us talking about all of the X-Men/Mutant movies.
That we watched in March.
This was a long one, we know. So if you stuck with it the whole way, thank you so much for putting up with us.
Yeah.
And
we had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, we did, definitely. So if you like this kind of content, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to our channel, give us some comments, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye, guys.